Hey everyone! I wanted to give you a sneak peek inside of Mockups for Makers so you can see what it's like in the school area where your courses live and what the interface looks like and all that good stuff. So let's take a look. So I am inside of the Teachable school. And whenever you purchase courses from me and you log in, they'll appear on a page like this. So you can see this is the new course, Mockups for Makers. And also you might notice the clothing mockups course sitting here, which is included for free inside of that course. So since the lessons themselves aren't publishing live in here until the 29th of October, the course is relatively empty, but I will show you what that area looks like, and then I'll show you the older version of this course, which is Photoshop Mockup Mastery, so you can get a feeling for how the lessons work together. So this is the Mockups for Makers course, and you can see that if you buy now, and you should because you get the fast action bonuses if you buy between now and midnight Pacific on October 8th, then you will get this. There's a little welcome lesson which just gives you some information about when the course stuff is going to be live and all that good stuff. But once the 29th rolls around, you'll get a whole bunch of modules in here. So let me pop over to my older version of this course, which was Photoshop Mockup Mastery, so you can see what a full window looks like. Okay, so here's the older version of the course. And so what I'm working on right now for Mockups for Makers is I'm taking all the content from Photoshop Mockup Mastery and auditing it, making sure that it's up to date, re-recording videos when necessary, and putting them into the new course. And then I'm also going to be adding a bunch of new content. So I'll show you what some of the new stuff that's coming is, but I also wanted to just walk you through this interface here. So when you first log in, it looks like this. You can see the name of the course on the left, which of course is going to be Mockups for Makers. And then on the right, we have these sections, which are the different modules. So each big block is a module. This is module 1, setups and basics. And then there's lessons underneath each of those. So you can see here's module 2, module 3, so on and so forth, all the way down to this bonus module, which is that clothing mockups course just pulled into this area. So all the lessons are right there. When you want to actually start doing the lessons, you just click in and then your window changes and it looks like this. So you have the video area on the right, and on the left you have your navigation basically, which shows you where you are in the course. You can see, oh, I'm in module 1. The things I've completed have little check boxes. Things that I've partially done have these like half circles, and things I haven't looked at all have a full circle. And then in each lesson, you just have a big play button which you press. Sometimes there's extra text or documents that are below, so just make sure you scroll down. For instance, this comes with some PDF documents, so you can see a preview, and there's also a download, so you can just download it to your computer and save it. And then some more information down below. So just make sure you scroll over on the right side of your screen to see everything that's there, but most of the time it's just going to be a single video. As you complete a lesson, to get to the next lesson, you can go up to the top of the screen and hit complete and continue, which is this big pink bar, or you could go back to the previous lecture, or you could just go over on the left and click the next lesson that way. A lot of this information is still going to be pretty much the same, except like I said, I'll be re-recording some of the videos to make things clearer, or if the interface has changed quite a bit since I recorded this, because Photoshop is always updating. But I think it would be helpful for you if I just walk through the curriculum here, because most of this is going to carry across to Mockups for Makers. So you'll have your welcome area, and then we have a lesson on my tech, like what I use for my computer and mouse and everything like that. And also how to get the free trial if you need to, with a link to purchase the version of Adobe Photoshop Creative Cloud that I have, which is $9.99 a month, and also comes with Lightroom, which I don't use yet, but someday I will. Maybe I'll teach a course on that. And then we have the Photoshop interface and toolbars. So if you took my challenge, this is going to be really similar to what you learned in there, except in much more detail. This is one of the longer videos in the whole course at 20 minutes. I tried to keep the videos very short and to the point, so they're easy to come back to later to remind yourself of a specific thing that you learned that maybe you kind of forgot. So this takes you more in depth into the tools and everything, but again, it's still built for beginners. You're not learning every single thing that Photoshop has to offer, just the things that you need for your particular needs in making mockups. Then we learn about creating a new document, and then how to bring a multicolored cut file into Photoshop, and then more lessons on pulling files out of Silhouette or Cricut and pulling them into Photoshop. And then you have an assignment. Most of the modules end with 1 or 2 assignments so that you can do the things that you learned. And those will often have a downloadable file. Like if you scroll down, see here, there's this PSD that you can download. So watch for those. Watch for those downloads throughout these lessons. Then in Module 2, we'll learn layer basics, and then we'll dive into learning about the text tool more and the glyphs, which is again something that you had a little peek at inside of the challenge, the Photoshop 101 challenge if you took that. If you didn't, no worries, it's right here in the course. And then I'll talk to you about guides and rulers, which are a really useful thing to be able to use on your screen for lining things up and measuring. And then selecting an image from the background using the pen tool. Selecting images out of backgrounds is one of the most useful things that you'll ever do in Photoshop. It's the kind of thing that is a lot harder to do in other programs and sometimes is the main reason that people get Photoshop. If you don't know what I mean by this, it's really similar to the trace function inside of Silhouette. Except that you can actually, with this particular lesson right here, you're using the Photoshop pen tool to draw around an item. But there are many, I would say, different ways to select things out of backgrounds in Photoshop. So I also cover the quick selection tool and lasso and some other ways that you can do that in Photoshop. And then you have your assignment. And then we move on to Module 3, which is working with files and images. I'll talk to you about watermarks and logos, and then dragging Photoshop files into a scene. Again, this is something we touched on a little bit inside of Photoshop 101 Challenge. And then we're going to learn about changing background colors using filters. That's a really fun one. It's fun to dive into the filters and see how those work. And then applying a background color from scratch, and we'll also talk about Creative Commons 0 stock photo resources, which was another lesson inside of the Photoshop 101 challenge. So we'll get more in depth in there, and you'll have a handy download for that. And then we have our assignment, and then this one has a bunch of bonus Photoshop files. So these are the ones that are used in the lessons previous to this, so that you can actually download them and try out the things that I show you. Or you can always use your own files, of course. Module 4 is my favorite. It's the Smart Objects module, and it is very comprehensive and requires an entire module to cover. So there's different types of smart objects you can make in different shapes. So the first lesson is about making straight or square smart objects, and it has its own assignment. And then, so there's, a file you download for that. Then lesson 2 is the angled or perspective smart objects. And lesson 3 are rounded and warped smart objects. So you get a lot of practice in there. And the warping section on this one is something that I'm going to be updating with the newer version of Photoshop. And then we talk about nesting smart objects. You don't need to know what I'm talking about here. It's just another really cool function inside of Photoshop that you'll learn in the course. And then duplicating, linking, and copying smart objects, because you can actually have one smart object but have it on multiple layers, and you edit it in one layer and all the layers update, which is extremely awesome and one of the big time savers in using Photoshop to create your mockups. And then we have some extras in here and some bonus files and goodies. So there's a bunch more files in here as well. Then we move into automation and planning. So this is the more thinking part of the course where you're learning about organizing your stuff into folders and about planning things out, coming up with a strategy for your images. I have an Etsy image strategy in here for my Etsy folks, but I know a lot of you don't sell on Etsy. Maybe you sell on Facebook. So this piece might not be as important for you, but the strategies of deciding what images to show on your online store are relevant no matter if you're on Etsy or not. So it might still be actually good for you to watch, but I will probably be updating that section too. And then we have creating how to do like a custom options mockup where you're showing different colors or patterns or things that you offer or fonts. And then again, another assignment. And then we move into module 6, which is workflow and social. So this is really fun. Here I'm giving you ideas for how to plan out the images you make so that they're not only good for your shop, but also for social media. And I talk about social media sizes and how to make template files in Photoshop that are pre-sized and created for those so that you can easily go from, oh, I made a pretty layout of my product to, and now I have it saved out 15 different ways in minutes inside of Photoshop so that you can share it around as well as just posting it in your site. And then how to document the new workflow that you come up with here. And then the bonus module. And the new pieces that I'm going to be adding and sprinkling in, so some of that organization inside those modules might change, is we're adding an entirely new module, a photography module. I'm super excited about that. I can't wait to record that for you. I'll be covering equipment, lighting, editing, and props. And we can talk about how to source props from your home or even from around town, like thrift shops and Target and whatnot. And then I'll also be talking a lot about how to make mock-ups for different kinds of materials because they have different shine and reflection and just different techniques. So we have all the drinkware stuff like ceramic, glass, stainless steel, but also I'm going to be touching on signs and clothing, etc., frames, maybe some planner stickers, other things that I know that you guys are making because you're multi-passionate and you make lots of cool things to sell. And this mock-up course is good for you as well. It's not just for drinkware people. And then we will be adding another section about how to create a convincing etched glass effect in Photoshop. This is something I have been working on. In the past, I've really just had white, but it doesn't look that convincing. So I've come up with a new technique for making your etching look like it has a texture on it and how to create that entirely inside of Photoshop. I'll also be teaching you how to add glitter to a photo, just like the glitter that I have in my mock-ups. Oh, I forgot to mention how to make glass pictures look transparent. That is so tricky. It took me a long time to figure out how to do this, and I can't wait to share that with you. It's something that I've kind of been keeping close to the vest in the past, but I really want you to know how to do that. And then it's because it's like the linchpin of a lot of the mock-ups that I sell. And since I can't make every mock-up in the universe, and I want you to learn how to make mock-ups for yourself, this is really, really important for you to learn. Then we'll have also some branding tips for mock-ups. I won't get too deep into branding, but I'll just give you some tips and tricks because I'm probably going to be making a separate course for that. And then I also plan to have some Photoshop extras, like additional tutorials that maybe aren't directly related to mock-ups, but I'm still figuring out what that's going to cover, but I think there's some other fun things that you might want to do inside of Photoshop and not know how, and why not throw those in? It doesn't all have to be about mock-ups all the time. So there you go. That was your peek inside of what the course area will look like and how you get around, how you get to the downloads. Once you've purchased, you are in. The course will be there waiting for you. You don't have to start it immediately. You don't have to go at it for 6 weeks on end. You could do it all in a weekend. You could wait 6 months and do it later. As long as the course exists, you have it, and you have free access to any updated version of the course that I do. So, for example, all the Photoshop Mockup Mastery people who have purchased this course in the past are going to get Mockups for Makers for free, plus the fast action bonuses, because I do reward you for taking action quickly and being like the first early adopters. You'll be making yourself a login when you first sign up and pay for the course. And if you ever forget your password, it's no big deal. The interface inside of Teachable lets you recover your password or change it very easily. So don't feel like you have to email me to even ask for that. That's something you can totally do on your own at any time, day or night. And it's very self-service. So I think that about covers it. Well, there is not a private Facebook community just for this course, just for Mockups for Makers, but I do have my free Photoshop Mockups for Makers group, which is open to anyone. And so you can always ping me in there. And for really deep support on the course materials themselves, it's always good to just email me, and you get all that information inside the course. You have my email address handy. Plus, if you're on my newsletter, you can always just hit reply over at sarahdesign.com. So I hope this helps and that you get in there while the fast action bonuses are on. But even if you don't, that you do get in there sometime, because this course is going to really change the game for you. And it would be great if you're heading into the holiday season to get this now and brush up those skills so that you can make a bunch of new listings and not have to worry about taking photos of every little thing. I think that would be excellent timing for you. So thanks so much for listening, and happy selling. Let me know if you have any questions.